My name is Peter. And I never thought Jesus would show up at my door, not in this life, not in this world, not in the condition I was in. I remember that night with a clarity that still wakes me sometimes. The sky outside looked bruised, dark purple clouds pressed low, swollen with rain. Thunder rolled like distant grief. The house creaked in that way old houses do, like it was sighing with me. Inside, the lights were dim, casting long shadows across my living room. I had left the lamp on out of habit, not comfort. My home wasn't warm anymore. It was a shelter I returned to because I had nowhere else to crumble. And that night, I was crumbling. My job felt uncertain. My family felt distant. My prayers felt like messages tossed into an ocean with no shore. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at a cold cup of coffee. Not drinking it. Not dumping it. Just staring. Like somehow it reflected my life, neglected, cold, waiting for something that wasn't coming. My hands trembled a little as I rubbed my forehead. I hadn't slept properly in weeks. I'd been carrying exhaustion like a secret, hoping no one noticed. That's when it happened. Knock. I ignored it. Another knock. Soft. Almost polite. I frowned. It was nearly 11 p.m. Who knocks at that hour? I got up slowly, almost dragging my feet across the wooden floor. But before I reached the door, a third knock. Steady. Patient. Like someone who wasn't going to leave until I responded. My heart thudded strangely. And for the first time in a long time, I whispered, "Lord, is this a sign? Or am I finally losing it?" My hand hovered over the doorknob. I opened the door a few inches. And the world I knew, the tired, lonely, silent world, shifted. There stood a man. Not glowing. Not shining. Not radiating any heavenly light. Just a man. Simple clothes. Slightly dusty shoes. Calm posture. And eyes. Eyes that looked like they carried centuries of compassion. He smiled gently. "Peter." My breath caught. Because he didn't ask my name. He said it like he'd known me long before he ever stood on my porch. I whispered the only name that made sense. "Jesus?" He nodded. The wind rustled behind him, but he didn't seem to notice. He just stood there, waiting. Not forcing. Not demanding. "May I come in?" he asked. And in that moment, my world, my wounds, my doubts, all collided with a truth I wasn't ready for. Jesus was standing at my door. I opened the door wider, not because I was ready, but because something inside me broke open. "Come in," I whispered. He stepped across the threshold quietly, almost reverently, like he respected the space more than I ever had. I closed the door behind him. The latch clicked softly, echoing in my chest. He took a slow look around, not inspecting, not criticizing, just observing, like someone taking in the story of a place. My house wasn't messy, but it also wasn't cared for. Stacks of unopened mail sat on the table. A jacket lay draped over a chair. A Bible gathered dust on a shelf near the window. He noticed the Bible. Not with judgment, but with the sadness of someone who missed talking to an old friend. He walked to the living room and sat in the armchair I always used when I worried late at night. A soft smile touched his face. "This is where you think the most," he said. My throat tightened. How do you know that?" He didn't answer directly. He just patted the seat across from him. "Sit with me, Peter." I obeyed, though part of me felt exposed, like all the thoughts I tried to hide were suddenly on display. For a moment neither of us spoke. The rain outside began to fall, gentle at first, then heavier. The sound filled the room like a background melody. Finally he spoke. "Why have you let your heart grow so tired?" His voice wasn't accusing. It was soft, like a parent asking a hurting child why they didn't ask for help sooner. I swallowed hard. I didn't know how to stop it." He nodded slowly. "You prayed," he said. "But you didn't rest. A tear slipped down my face before I could stop it. I didn't think you heard me. Jesus leaned back, resting his hands on his knees. I heard every word, Peter. Even the ones you couldn't say. That undid me. Because how do you respond to someone who knew your silence better than your speech? I whispered. Then why didn't you answer? His expression didn't harden. It softened. I did. Just not in the ways you expected. I shook my head. Lord, it felt like you were gone. He leaned forward, eyes locked on mine. Peter, I never left you. You left yourself. My breath hitched. That sentence pierced deeper than anything I'd heard. Jesus continued. You lived surrounded by noise, but you stopped listening to your own soul. You filled your days with tasks, but not with me. You prayed for help, but you didn't allow your heart to be held. I covered my face with my hands, overwhelmed. Then he said the words that set the entire journey into motion. That is why I came tonight. Because you wouldn't come to me. So I came to you. The house felt different then. Not brighter. Not louder. Just safer. And for the first time in a long time, I let out a shaky breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Jesus sat quietly in the armchair across from me, his posture relaxed, his expression steady, calm in a way that made my own restless spirit painfully obvious. The rain tapped harder against the window now, like thousands of tiny fingers trying to get my attention. The room felt small, not because of him, but because of everything inside me he was uncovering. He looked at me gently. Peter, tell me what's truly weighing on you. I forced out a breath. Part of me wanted to speak. The other part wanted to hide everything. I whispered. I don't think you'll like what I have to say. He smiled softly. If I only loved you when you were composed, I wouldn't be here tonight. That disarmed me. It knocked loose something I'd kept locked away for too long. I stared at my hands, hands that shook, hands that had worked, hands that had failed. Finally I spoke. I'm tired, Lord. He nodded. I know. No, I mean, really tired, I continued. Tired in my bones. Tired in my soul. Every day feels heavier than the last. And I keep asking you for strength, but... My voice wavered. But sometimes I feel like you ignore me. Jesus didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He didn't rush me. What makes you feel ignored? He asked softly. I exhaled shakily. Because nothing changes. I pray, and the problems stay. I ask for peace, and I get anxiety. I ask for direction, and I feel lost. My voice cracked. I'm not strong enough. And I keep waiting for you to fix me, but nothing happens. For the first time since he'd entered my home, he leaned closer, slowly, intentionally. Peter, you think my silence is abandonment. But my silence has always been an invitation. I looked up, confused and hurt. An invitation to what? To trust me more deeply than you trust your understanding. I felt something twist inside me. That's easy for you to say, I whispered, instantly regretting the disrespect in my tone. But Jesus didn't react with offense or disappointment. His voice remained gentle. Peter, faith is not built by seeing. Faith is built in the places where sight fails you. He let that linger in the air. But the storm inside me was far from calm. I stood up abruptly, pacing the room. This is exactly what I mean. You speak in ways I don't understand. You say you're there, but I feel nothing. You say you guide me, but I can't see where I'm going. You say you love me, but why doesn't it feel like love? My breathing grew uneven. I feel alone, Jesus. I feel like I've been carrying everything by myself. And I resent you for that. Silence. Not the aching silence I'd known before, but a stillness that made my words echo louder. Jesus looked at me with an expression I didn't expect. Not hurt. Not anger. But sorrow. Real sorrow. He stood up and approached me slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. When he was close enough, he spoke quietly. Peter, You resent me because you misunderstand me. Those words landed heavier than anything else. He continued. You pray for me to take away your burdens. But you refuse to put them in my hands. My jaw tightened. That's not fair. He nodded. It isn't. But neither is the pain you've been carrying alone. His honesty cut straight through me. I turned away, unable to meet his eyes. I don't know how to give you everything, I admitted. He stepped beside me, not in front of me, not above me, beside me. That is why I am here tonight, he whispered. To show you how. A lump formed in my throat so tight it felt almost painful. I whispered back. It just hurts. More than I can explain. He nodded. Pain that is hidden becomes prison. Pain that is spoken becomes freedom. My eyes burned again. I felt childish, foolish, exposed. Jesus touched my shoulder, just a light, grounding touch. Tell me where it hurts, Peter. The room felt so quiet it was like the world outside had stopped breathing. My voice trembled. It hurts everywhere. He nodded once, slow and understanding. Then start with the place that hurts the most. I knew exactly which place that was. I just didn't want to face it. He waited. Not impatiently, just faithfully. And eventually, the truth clawed its way out of me. It's not just life that exhausted me, I said. It's me. I'm tired of myself. Jesus turned slightly toward me. Tired of what part of yourself? All of it. I wanted to say all of it. But instead I spoke piece by piece. I'm tired of pretending I'm okay. Tired of disappointing people. Tired of making decisions that lead nowhere. Tired of feeling like a burden. Tired of feeling. My voice cracked suddenly. Tired of feeling unlovable. The last word hung between us like a confession I'd kept buried for years. Jesus closed his eyes briefly, and when he opened them, they were full of something fierce and gentle all at once. Peter, when did you decide you were unlovable? I looked away, guilt flooding every corner of my heart. When I kept messing up. When I kept failing. When no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't be the person I was supposed to be. My chest tightened painfully. So I figured, maybe you were disappointed too. Jesus stepped in front of me then, carefully, reverently, and placed his hand over my heart. Peter, listen to me. His voice was steady, warm, unshakably sincere. You cannot disappoint someone who knows every one of your weaknesses and still chooses you. His words hit me with so much force that I took a step back. But he held my gaze. You think your failures surprise me? You think your flaws repel me? You think your brokenness makes you unworthy of my love? His voice softened to a whisper. Peter, your brokenness is the very reason I came. My knees weakened. I had spent years believing God tolerated me, never truly embracing the idea that He delighted in me. And now, the truth was standing right in front of me. Human. Present. Patient. Jesus continued. You measure yourself by your failures. But I measure you by my love. Tears blurred my vision again. The conflict inside me, the anger, the shame, the confusion, the desperation, began swirling even faster, like a storm about to break open. I whispered, almost breathlessly. Then why does everything still hurt? He replied. Because you have not yet let me heal you. I stared at him. He stared back. And suddenly, I realized something terrifying. He wasn't asking for a confession. He was asking for surrender. The kind of surrender that changes everything. Jesus stood in front of me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his presence, yet gentle enough that I never felt cornered. Outside the rain softened, but inside, the storm in my chest grew louder. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand, embarrassed by how many tears I'd shed in front of him. He didn't look away. Not once. He waited. Not for the right words, but for the honest ones. I swallowed hard. My voice wavered. Lord, I don't know how to surrender. I don't know how to let go. I don't know how to stop fighting myself. Jesus stepped closer, his expression both tender and unshakably steady. "You don't need to know how, Peter," he said softly. "You only need to be willing." I blinked, stunned by the simplicity of it. "Willing?" I whispered. He nodded. "Willing to stop pretending you're unbreakable. Willing to be honest with me. Willing to let me carry what you were never meant to hold." His voice lowered, rich with compassion. "Willing to stop being your own savior." That shook me. I had never thought of myself that way. But that's exactly what I'd been trying to do. Fix myself. Heal myself. Strengthen myself. Redeem myself. "Peter," he said gently, "you keep asking me to save you, while holding on to the very chains I came to break." I felt something inside me crack. A deep, long-awaited fracture. "I'm afraid," I admitted. It came out barely above a whisper. "Of what?" he asked. "Of what happens if I stop being strong." Jesus nodded, as if he expected that answer. "If you stop being strong," he said quietly, "then you will finally learn what it means for me to be strong for you." My breath caught. I lowered my gaze. "I don't want to disappoint you." Jesus gently lifted my chin with 2 fingers, guiding my eyes back to his. "You could never disappoint me by being honest." My chest tightened painfully. I felt like I was standing at the edge of something irreversible. A cliff where the only way forward was to leap. And he knew. Jesus stepped closer, so close I could see the faint lines around his eyes. The kind of lines carved not by age, but by compassion. "Peter," he whispered, "show me the wound." I froze. Because I knew exactly what he meant. Not the surface hurts. Not the small insecurities. Not the everyday stress. He was asking for the deepest one. The one I never touched. The one I buried so far inside I hoped it would suffocate. My breathing hitched. I don't think I can." He shook his head gently. "Yes, you can. But only when you're ready. And I am here until you are." The rain outside faded into a quiet drizzle. The room felt impossibly still. I sank into the couch, my hands trembling. "My whole life," I began slowly, "I've felt like I have to earn love." Jesus sat beside me. Not across the room. Not towering over me. But right next to me. Close. Present. Human. "Go on," he encouraged softly. I stared at my hands. If I wasn't successful enough, I felt worthless. If I wasn't helpful enough, I felt invisible. If I wasn't perfect enough, I felt unlovable. A shaky breath escaped me. And I kept thinking, maybe you see me the same way. Jesus closed his eyes for a second, as if absorbing the weight of my words. Then he spoke. And his voice carried both tenderness and fierce truth. "Peter, if my love could be earned, it would not be love. It would be payment." I looked at him, startled. "But I keep failing," I whispered. "And I keep choosing you," he replied. Those 5 words shattered me. My chest collapsed into quiet sobs. The kind that come from somewhere deep. Somewhere aching. I pressed my palms to my face. "I'm so tired of being broken," I cried. Jesus placed his arm around my shoulders, pulling me into an embrace. Not dramatic. Not overwhelming. Just steady. "Then let me hold what's been breaking you," he murmured. I leaned into him without meaning to. Like a weary child who had spent too long pretending they didn't need comfort. The moment I allowed myself to rest against him, something inside me cracked open fully. Memories I'd buried, failures I hid, pain I never named. All surfaced. I breathed them out in trembling gasps. And he held me. No rush. No discomfort. No disappointment. Just presence. When the tears finally slowed, he spoke again. "Peter, surrender is not giving up. Surrender is giving over." I pulled back slightly, wiping my face. "To you?" I whispered. "To me," he confirmed. How? I asked, genuinely lost. Jesus touched his chest with his palm. By letting me into the places you kept closed. My voice broke again. I'm scared. I know. What if it hurts? It will, he admitted gently. But healing always hurts before it helps. The honesty in his tone, the lack of sugarcoating, the deep compassion, made me trust him more. The storm inside me eased just a little. He placed his hand over mine. Peter, this is the moment you choose. Carry your pain alone, or place it in my hands. I stared at him, into those steady, knowing eyes. And for the first time in my life, I understood what surrender really meant. Not weakness, not failure, not giving up, but letting go of what was killing me. I took a shaking breath. Lord, I don't know how to give you everything. He squeezed my hand gently. Then start by giving me one thing. I nodded slowly. My lips quivered as I whispered. Take my fear. Jesus smiled. A soft, proud smile. Like a father watching his child take their first unsteady step. I already have it, he said. Now let me take the rest. And in that moment, with tears drying on my face, with my chest aching yet strangely lighter, with Jesus sitting beside me in my small, imperfect living room, I felt something shift inside me. A breaking, a release, a holy collapse. The turning point. The moment everything changed. I didn't waste another second. I walked straight to my front door and pulled it open, almost expecting, almost hoping, that Jesus would be standing there again. But the space was empty. Just the same quiet street, the quiet night, the quiet world I had ignored for too long. Yet somehow, I didn't feel alone. Not anymore. I stepped outside. The air was cool, carrying the gentle smell of earth after a long day. I closed my eyes and breathed it in. And for the first time in years, maybe even decades, I felt alive. Not the frantic kind of alive that comes from running from problems, but the steady, grounded, peaceful kind, the kind that settles in your bones. As if something inside me had finally come home. And as I stood there, barefoot on my front steps, I felt it. The truth Jesus had whispered beneath all his words. I wasn't abandoned. I wasn't forgotten. I wasn't too late. I was still loved. Still held. Still worth knocking for. And that changed everything. I went back inside, grabbed my coat, and headed out. Not to escape, but to finally show up for my life. I walked to my sister's house first. The same house I had avoided ever since our last argument. Back when pride was more important to me than peace. My hands shook as I knocked. When she opened the door, her eyes widened. Not in anger. Not in shock. But in something that looked a lot like relief. Peter? She whispered. Yeah, I said. It's me. I'm sorry. For everything. Her lips trembled. And then she stepped forward and pulled me into a hug so tight I thought my ribs might crack. For a moment, we both just stood there, crying, shaking, healing. I remember thinking, look at that. A door opens, and a life changes. Just like mine did. Just like yours might, too. Over the next few hours, I visited people I had hurt. People I had lost. People I thought I'd never face again. Not everyone forgave me. Not everyone welcomed me back. But that wasn't the point. I wasn't knocking to erase my past. I was knocking to rewrite my future. And as the sun rose, soft and gold across the sky, I felt something settle inside me. A certainty. A quiet conviction. Jesus was right. The door to my life wasn't just opened, it was no longer mine to close. Because once love gets in, real, holy, stubborn love, it doesn't leave. It transforms. It's been months since the day Jesus knocked at my door. Sometimes I still wonder if someone will believe what I'm about to say. Someone might think it's impossible, too strange, too miraculous. But then I remind myself. The miracle wasn't that Jesus came to my door. The miracle was that I answered. I started waking up earlier. Started praying again, not with fear, not with guilt, but with honesty. Some mornings, I sit at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee, staring at the empty chair across from me. And I smile. Because even though I can't see him, I know he's still sitting there. Still knocking. Still guiding. Still waiting for me to keep choosing the open door. And every now and then, when life gets heavy, I find myself whispering, Lord, if you ever want to come by again, I'll be here. But the truth is, he never left. Not really. Because the moment he stepped into my home that night, he stepped into my heart. And now the door stays open. For him. For grace. For new beginnings. And maybe, just maybe, for someone who needs me to knock on their door, too. If Peter's story touched you, inspired you, or reminded you that your door is never too closed for Jesus to enter, then hear this. Jesus is still knocking, right now, at the door of your heart. Don't wait. Don't doubt. Don't delay. Open the door. Let him in. Let him change the room you thought was too broken to touch. And if you want to experience more stories like this, stories of grace, encounter, healing, and hope, subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Share this story with someone who needs it. And check the description box for more life-changing narratives. Your story isn't over. Not as long as he keeps knocking. And he always will.